I think, Mr. Yeaman, I would like to turn this over to you for a little bit for your explanation as far as what's going on.
Well, the petitioner, I believe, initiated this process. First, the city expressed an interest in purchasing the corner parcel which abuts their existing property, and we sent the planning, which gave it a positive recommendation, and the petitioner, as part of its acquisition offer, had an appraisal done which came in at $148,000. We have to fulfill all the normal requirements, but in addition to that, we need to take into account the fact that the city is planning to do some street improvements on that intersection, which need to be taken into account specifically somehow, by reservation or contingency. And I don't know all the particulars of that. Perhaps we could,
We're going there next.
Turn it over to engineering and public works to
Mr.
shed some light on
that. Would you like to add to this?
Could I lead into that?
Sure.
In our review, there was a study that was done in 2007 by HEDCO for the city of traffic improvements, and it had proposed road improvements at that intersection improvements. Now, I don't have plans for that. I don't think there are plans available, but I think depending on Public Works, whether they want to continue that thought, that we need to ensure that adequate land is reserved for the city and not deeded away. There are some other details which were spelled out in our report to the Planning Commission regarding zoning issues and some other things. They are of a less important nature at this time. We had concluded our staff report by recommending that all the plans and documents be reviewed and approved by the City Traffic Engineer and Engineering Department prior to final approval of the Office of Corporation Counsel, to ensure that is addressed. We probably need to do an A2 survey regardless, and that might be the time to do that.
Well, if we can, Mr. Chairman, we'd like to just add to the record tonight. One of the things we do want to point out that the parcel that is in question is not a separate parcel. It is actually a part of the existing right-of-way for the city of Danbury. So it exists as a right-of-way parcel right now. So that's one thing that we do want to mention. In 1984, two people tried to purchase the same parcel, close to the same parcel, and at that point the Public Works Commission recommended a denial of both petitions. And our position in this is that if we do sell this, it will basically eliminate any opportunity for any improvements to that intersection, such as a right turning lane or any other type of improvements for sight distance. And there's a bunch of utilities that are underneath this parking lot, so there'll be several easements that would have to be taken into place, and there would have to be some future consideration for maintenance of those utilities. And the other thing that we also want to tell the applicant currently is that although he's prepared what appears to be some kind of a proposed site plan, there's no guarantee that that site plan after the sale of this property will ever be approved. We really don't know the impact of this proposed site plan to the traffic. As you know, it is a tough intersection, and there is a driveway, what looks to be of considerable utility as far as utilizing a bunch of parking that may have a significant impact to that intersection. So just a couple of things to consider tonight, is we strongly feel that if this committee recommends to the full commission that common council that we sell this, it will considerably impact our opportunities to do improvements to that intersection. And although we don't have any existing plans developed, and although we don't have any anything that is even showing some remote funding of improvements to that intersection, it will eliminate any opportunity to do so in the future.
All right, question I would have for you, Antonio, is that is there any time in the future, the near future, where they're going to have this information? I mean, I would hate to vote on this stuff if it comes back to bite us later on because we had the restructuring of the passageway here.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's clear in the study that was done, I think 2007 you said that, it's very clear, and if you've been down that way, that entire intersection definitely needs some help. So, although we don't have the full development of drawings, the full scope of what those improvements are, it basically comes down to you would eliminate any opportunity for that should the parcel be sold.
I can see that.
Yeah.
When is there a design or
No.
some information down the pipe that we can?
No, the only the only information we do have is that engineering-wise and planning-wise, there's definitely some improvements that should be done to that intersection to improve the traffic flow and the pedestrian flow, through that intersection. That's the information we currently have.
Would you like to?
Yeah, one of the recommendations that the study made is to have White Street all the way 4 lanes from Patriot all the way to Federal Road. And as Dennis he started improving the first section of it in front of the college. And we did finish phase 1, call it. And as money becomes available from different sources of state funding, we move forward into improving section at a time. Right now, we don't have current plans on any improvement, but the study recommended that we need 4 lanes for future handling of traffic on White Street. And what that means is, even if we sell it today, down the road, we're going to go back and tell them, sell it back to us, so we have right of way.
John, you have questions?
Yes, in all fairness, could I ask the petitioners what they intend to do with this piece of property?
Yes. First of all, I'm glad everybody's looking at this piece of property. I was born and raised in this area. I was born on Whitefield. And years ago, the road, they corrected the road and made it in line with Walnut Street. It used to go straight. Locust Avenue used to go right like that. This was a corner piece of property that my father bought. He bought it from the Morgans, and he built the building for General Tire. As far as purchasing the property, I don't have to purchase it. Lease it to me. I will clean it up, okay? I'll put a little bench here for people to wait for the buses. Right now, the brush has been allowed to grow. Have you seen the property?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's unsightly. So we would do all that. We would lease it for the value of what you want enough to buy this. And we'll clean it up and use it. It'll be good for the city. It'll be good for people who are waiting for the bus. And it will be fine. Other than that, we'll purchase it.
One question that I had for the record, Peter Scalzo, I practice law at 2 Stony Hill Road. Antonio, just in reference to the piece being in the right-of-way, I think you said, and that's not a separate piece, is that, did I correctly?
Yeah, that,
Okay.
it was when, as your dad described, when the realignment occurred,
Yeah.
the parcel that was purchased was actually collapsed into the town's right-of-way, so it's not a separate parcel.
All right, because we have a survey, I don't know, it's in the appraisal. It was done by CCA, LLC dated December 16th, 2008, in which they clearly have a separate parcel here. I'd encourage you just to look in the appraisal.
Is there a parcel number on it?
Well, not on this particular sheet. I don't know if there's a tax assessor number on this parcel.
Do we have it?
Yeah, it's part of
Is that
the
this one?
appraisal, and it shows, no, it's in the appraisal itself, and it shows it as a separate parcel. That's why I'm just a little bit confused about.
About halfway now.
Chairman, if I may continue?
Yes, sir.
The question is just to put this thing in perspective. I noticed there's a horseshoe drive from Locust Avenue into the property at, what, the P33 White?
233
Who
White
owns
Street.
that piece of property? Does anybody? Which one?
233 White Street is owned.
Is owned? That piece
Yeah.
of property?
No, this parcel here.
All I'm asking is who owns that,
Oh,
who owns that drive going in
That's,
adjacent to this property?
okay, according to the survey that was done in 2008, that's a city-owned
Is it
driveway.
a city owned?
Yeah,
Well, presently, that's open from the property at
Correct.
333 to Locust Avenue.
Yeah.
And the petitioner is using that now.
correct.
Well, the reason for that is they blocked it off.
Buddy?
We originally had access to the street here,
Yeah.
and then when they realigned this road, they had to give us access again.
Who had to be at?
The city, because we had access to Locust Avenue, was a corner lot. In other words, this road went like this, John. It went down here, and we could drive in here, okay, we could drive in here. And then when they made this, they gave us this access, because they blocked off our entrance.
It's been for how long?
I don't know, when was that?
I think when Jack of the Box or something.
When was it done?
Yeah.
So the oil changes.
Probably going back to the sixties.
Jack of the Box.
Yeah, Jack.
The city purchased the lot on the northwest corner.
Gentlemen.
If I can just finish,
Yes, for-
the aesthetic to this piece of property right now, I don't know what you're talking about, but I noticed the piece in the back is overgrown a little bit, but there is a big, beautiful tree.
I don't think you're supposed to write on the map.
Right?
Be careful about writing on the map.
Oh, you don't want to write on it?
I have.
There is a beautiful tree in the center of this property. How much parking, you said you're gonna beautify the piece, how much more can you beautify it?
Well, you
There's a
can't get too
beautiful
much.
lawn there that I guess the city mows,
Well,
plus this tree there. Right
Right.
here, it's just a little bit overgrown. But how much of that are you gonna use for parking? And what would you do with that tree that's on there?
We'll give it to you, Jim. Right, here it is, here's what we're gonna do with it, or something like this. We're putting parking there. And we're
Where,
going,
whereabouts is the parking? Half of it or the entire thing for parking?
well, what we can get in there and have some beautification on the very
I
corner.
think, let me just
Yeah.
interject. This map here is just a conceptual. So a surveyor just said, hey, if you wanted to maximize parking, you could do this. That's all. It was never meant to be anything that, this is exactly what we're.
My question
planning
is,
on
if they're
doing.
gonna maximize this piece of property for parking, is that what you intend to do?
Yes,
Correct.
use it for parking.
Correct, yeah.
That answers my question, Chairman.
Free?
Yeah, to answer Pete's question about
Yeah,
this
right.
survey, I think
Yeah.
this is what your engineer is proposing. This is the limit he's proposing, at
Correct.
0.23 acre. So in essence, it's part of the right of way. It's
Okay.
not
A
a piece,
separate.
a separate
Okay.
piece. And he wanted to present it to us that this
Yeah.
is the limit
Okay.
that you are willing, to purchase or lease or whatever.
Yeah, it would be.
So that's the,
Yeah.
it will be a separate piece. Right now, it's not, it's
Yeah.
part of the right.
Yeah. I mean, I have approached towns before in the city to purchase real estate that the municipality owns, and I know it's a precious commodity of any municipality, not to just give away or sell land or lease it out. So, Dad has owned 233 White Street, that building there, for how many years, would you say? Like,
Well,
Grandfather
been in the
on it.
family since
Yeah.
General Tire must be, let's see, moved into our building in 1955. At the flood, it was before then, so
So
he's
he's
early 50s.
He's had different tenants in this building at 233 White Street. Right now, he has a muffler brake shop And, you know, he always looked at this corner lot and said, gosh, you know, if the city's not gonna do anything with it, then I know I could use it. And I can put parking in there, expand parking, maybe even qualify for a different use within the building. There's medical right across the street, you know, the Embry Orthopedic is right across the street. So parking, additional parking for this parcel would enhance the parcel, and that's why we're here. We approached the mayor and we said, would you consider either a rental or a purchase? And he said, I would rather you purchase it. So we had an appraisal done, and that's why we're here tonight. I did not know about the 2007 study that was done.
Just one more question, Mr. Chairman. The abutting property, I don't know what number it is, but if there's a large house, is that a bakery there or something?
Jewelry store. Could be. It used to be a jewelry store.
I think it was jewelry.
Jewelry store. Yeah. The abutting property, would we have any difficulty with the abutting property selling? Does the abutting property have anything to say about it?
I don't have new procedures, would they get notice?
On sale?
Probably not.
Well, I don't think so.
Probably not.
But that driveway that we're talking about separates the number, I think it's number 7, and 333. In fact, that driveway cuts, the house is here, the driveway runs into your property. These people here, they own this house, the first house going into.
That was,
Right, Mr. DeGrasse.
that would remain though. The driveway would remain. There'd still be a separation.
But we determined that that driveway does belong to this parcel? Did we determine that?
Well, it belongs to the city.
Yeah, I mean, it's been an access way that's been used by them by 233 White Street as that dates back to when they
70s.
they changed the road.
And it seems
I
like
think
there's,
it was the 70s.
Yeah, if we had too many people going at once for minutes.
Whoops.
it seems like there is another driveway. There's a retaining wall between the two, and there's another driveway. So I don't know if number 7 is using the same driveway. Is that your question, John?
No, I'm trying to determine who owns that piece, that driveway from Locust Avenue into 333.
The
White.
city.
Half of the driveway from the map in front of you is part of the right-of-way. The heavy line,
Here.
yes,
City.
that's city owned. That's the frontage on the
That
city.
driveway is on city right-of-way. It's like an extension
Right
of
Extension
the...
of the drive.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct. That's correct.
The city owns
The
that.
city owns from here.
That's
Who has the right to that?
This is what you're-
We have the right to it. They just, it's an extension of a
Extension
driveway.
for a
That's
driveway.
all
It's a
it is.
long driveway.
As you know, when you have a driveway, the first 10 feet of that adjacent to a road is actually owned by the city. This actually is maybe 20 or 30 feet, but it's the same scenario.
Same concept, yeah.
That was done when the road was shifted.
Shifted.
That was done so.
So to allow them access,
One at a
so they
time.
had to move the driveway and stuff.
Yeah, that was done so they wouldn't be landlocked when they, in effect, added this land, if you want to think of it that way. Because the land, I mean, the
Yeah, I think they were trying to.
Especially
lot
this
ended
street.
right there.
This parcel here.
That, they would have landlocked.
There's still access right here to White Street for 232 White Street.
All right, if I can just take control of this meeting, Doc, in a second. I'm going to express my opinion, and then this is for purposes, or for the committee members. At this point in time, I don't think I can support the sale or the lease because nobody approached me personally about possibly leasing it as an option. I was excited about the possibility when it was first presented, but then I didn't know what the Antonio told us about the whole intersection and the utilities and everything else that you brought forward that would be impacted if the property were sold. So what I am going to suggest, and this is up to the committee members again, is that we continue this meeting to get some additional information and meet at a later date to decide the petitioner's request.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, we've got the petitions here, we got the Corporation Council planning. Any questions? I think we could, is there a particular question you might
Yeah,
have?
the thing that I have a concern with is what Antonio told us, how the intersection's got to be improved, and that there's nothing on the table yet as far as to how they're going to do that or how they're going to pay for it. So what I'm concerned with, in all due respect to the Scalzos, whom I appreciate their efforts coming out here, is if we don't know what we're going to do with that intersection yet, because if the plans haven't been made, then I don't want to give away that or sell that property if we're going to have to somehow pick it back up again to do the improvements of the traffic pattern there. I'm not against relinquishing the ownership to these folks, but I want to make sure all our bases are covered.
Just one question, maybe the public works can address. I recall somewhere along the line that intersection, did the state have anything to do with that? That we're going to realign that corner, White Street and Locust? Wasn't there a long-range plan for that? I seem to remember something about it.
There's actual work proposed just over. Yeah. Oh, what's that?
Over the city road.
Yeah, it's the city road. But I think what you're referring to is some work that is being done just on the other side of Federal and Newtown.
Is that parcel involved in this long-range plan?
No.
But that's state.
That's state. Yeah, this is all city. We actually own and operate and maintain White Street.
Up to the light.
Yeah.
You're right, John, it's from Federal Road all the way to Plum Trees, the other way, not this way. Just for clarification in your mind.
That's a state road.
That's the state was gonna go and improve it.
It's special.
Yeah, I also have concerns, and a couple of my concerns are that in the paperwork it says that the purchase price is to be determined by the tax collector, the tax assessor. We don't have her here, that's a piece that's kind of missing. I'd kind of like her input on, what we're doing also. And the A2 survey, which I realize we don't have, and I guess my question is it an unreasonable request to ask for the A2 survey prior to continuing with this?
Can I, I think it's incumbent on us to determine conceptually whether we're going to sell or lease this before we require them to go out and spend a lot of money on an A2 survey, because, obviously this is not an A2 survey, but it's a pretty good
Well, actually it
idea.
is.
Yeah, that's, we've
Okay,
had
it
it,
is.
A2 survey,
Okay.
yeah.
This is an A2?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a land surveyors.
I mean,
RLS.
It's not signed,
It's not
but
signed.
it's
Oh, it is?
certified.
And why
to the
were we
office.
looking for a new A2?
Because we
I
didn't
mean, I
have
can-
it tonight.
I can
Oh.
get that sent. Oops,
Yeah, that's right, it was in our checklist.
I
guess-
sent the appraisal
We may not even
when I
need
sent the original letter in. But I didn't know how it worked. Yeah.
But, I think we have a lot more unanswered questions to address, especially with the, raising of this lease issue. That's an interesting.
Well, originally that's what I wanted to do, but originally what I wanted to do was clean the property up, be able to park some cars, be able to pretty the corner up, because quite frankly, it needs it. It would save the city from maintaining it. We would be able to use it, be able to pay the city money. We may maybe get 6 or 8 cars, maybe 10 cars in there. We have plenty of parking anyhow, but it would just be a good thing to do. As far as owning it, we certainly don't have to own it. We certainly don't have to encumber any future design plans or anything like that. Originally, the proposal was to lease, not buy. And then we said, well, let's get the appraisal. So we find out Nochi is the man, and Nochi do it, and that's the reason why we're here. But we'll do whatever.
Yeah, and just to reinforce what my dad is saying is, the property survey dated 12/16/08 is titled City of, or Land to be Leased, because we did want to do a lease first. So that's what we thought would be the most.
Yeah, I believe it was
Acceptable.
the mayor's,
Yeah, he's,
Preference.
Mayor Mark Fountain would have
For
rather
revenue
seen a purchase.
purposes
He
and
was
everything
thinking
else.
about a purchase, so,
right, but
yeah,
I don't think anybody was focusing on the long-term.
no.
Antonio, do you have something?
Yeah, I just, I do want to just say, I think we officially, I would hate to come back here one more night and tell you again that we're kind of a little concerned if you sell this property, what the future impact would be to us improving this intersection. So we like to officially go on the record, say that we would have to recommend that you don't do it. And two, I've had a little history with, a short history, because I've only been here a short time, but I've had a little history with this board taking a position about leasing city land. If you remember, we went through 3 or 4 meetings regarding leasing some property to a doctor, and his name's gonna escape me.
Right.
Right, next to Broadview Middle School.
Had to
And,
bring that up, didn't you?
well, I have to bring the thorn out and stick a few people with it. But I just want to tell you that I think at that point, what you said publicly is that, not you specifically, but I think what the common council was basically saying as a policy is that they really were not interested in leasing portions of publicly owned property to facilitate future business use or current business use or potential business expansion. So I just want to put that on the table for everybody to kind of chew on for a little bit. But I think we're pretty much set in our opinion and our recommendation to this committee as far as selling it. Obviously, you guys can take that recommendation, not take it, but that's kind of where we're at. It is a most ideal piece of property for a dedicated right turning lane, which may end up having to be done, which would eliminate the congestion in the north-south travel portion of this White Street. So that's kind of where we stand.
Dennis?
So you have a, excuse me, let me ask you a question. You have a blanket policy that you would not lease to
No, he's
any
recommending.
city-owned property?
No, I actually don't make recommendation on leasing, property. I think a lease could work here, knowing that if we give you ample notice of reusing the property, you would vacate it.
Like you give us 3 months' notice that you're
Right.
going to do this?
But I just want to tell you, being involved in several of these, actually 2 of these lease type of arrangements, what this board has done in the past is basically done exactly what I said, is they've gotten away from leasing city property for the betterment or the development or future expansion of business, which, obviously is what appears to happen when you create this additional parking here.
I thought it was a win-win situation. If I thought I was going to encounter all this,
Yeah.
I thought it was a win-win situation to lease it or buy it, clean it up, be able to park some cars there, put some benches there where people can wait for the bus. That's my only intention. I'm sorry I caused all this trouble.
We get paid the big bucks for this.
There's no trouble involved, it's just I want to make the right decision here. I was all in favor of the whole thing until I heard some of this
If
information.
purchasing or leasing it.
Not that I want to rehash some old history, but I just want to tell you that on that Broadview piece, I was actually for the leasing of the property.
Yeah.
I remember that very well, sir.
Yes, but this committee ruled against my recommendation.
Mr. Chairman, did you?
Yeah, I don't think conceptually, and I certainly don't have any objection to this, and I commend you. There are problems, though, as we've discovered. There is a zoning issue. If you do expand property for parking on a leased piece of land from the city, then you go and expand your business.
Yep.
And that expansion of that business is predicated on having X number of additional parking spaces. When the city wants the land back, we create a real legal problem. I think beyond that, I think the issue here is twofold. One is, what are you going to do with the intersection? We don't have plans. It's one thing to ask engineering to go back and come up with schematics, quick schematics on what you could do with the intersection. Quite another thing, if you're looking in the future of expanding White Street. That is not going to be an easy job. And that's not something that can be done quickly. It's going to take a long time to design. And because you're doing the whole street, you just can't do one section. And that would have an impact on how much land you could lease. Now, at some point, we could say, okay, we've done our plans, we have, we've got the money in place, and we're ready to go. Then we have some leftover land that we don't need. Fine. But we're not at that point. We're far away from that point.
Very good point.
Any further discussion? No.
I'm ready to, for a motion.
Well, before we do that, do you have any questions or anything?
Yeah, actually, I do have one more. I'd like to ask Mr. Scalzo.
Yes.
Would you be interested in the leasing part? I mean, just so we know, because I wasn't sure, because I know this is all new and was kind of thrown at you tonight.
Originally,
Just to know what we're,
originally, that's what it was, proposed land of city name to be leased. That's what we had originally. And then we heard that they would rather sell it than lease it, so then we went ahead and got the appraisal. But the property has to be maintained by the city of Danbury, which that's fine. But we wanted to clean it up and park some cars there, and our intentions were very good. As far as expanding of the business, the building is maxed out. And I have this parking in the back, as you know, considerable amount of parking right here. This whole piece on Meadow Street. And the two houses next door I gave away. I gave one to the church and one to Hope Line. I could have used that for parking. And that's these properties too. And, but we just thought that was the thing to do with this corner. It's a beautiful corner. And it should be made more beautiful. Maybe the city will clean it up. Maybe the city will put some benches there for people to sit and wait for the bus. That's what the whole thing is.
I wouldn't like to prolong this conversation about cleaning up the Scalzo, but looking at that property, what more can you clean up? It's got a beautiful lawn there, a beautiful tree, with the exception of a couple of big weeds
There was
closer
nothing
to your
on-
building than anything.
There was
But
nothing on
actually,
this
the piece
property.
is, aesthetically, is a nice piece of property.
When they did this was all lawn. Now, they have allowed all the shrubs to grow over here, the walking part of the building. If you drive down there, you'll see.
Yeah, I
And the
did.
shrubs have grown very high, okay? As far as the one tree in the center, the city planted that,
There's two trees there.
or whatever they are
Yeah,
in the
there's one
center.
big one, one small.
Uh-huh.
But 99% of that is a perfectly maintained lawn that the city maintains.
Yes.
And it's a nice looking, but you're maintaining, you're gonna clean it up. I don't know how much more you're gonna clean up.
Well, it's this whole brush area. If you drive down there, you'll see it's considerable. It's considerable.
That's not important.
Mr. Touchwood.
I'd like to make a motion to continue this meeting until we have more information, including the purchase price from the tax assessor and more information on leasing the property.
I'll second the motion.
Question on the motion. I'm just trying to avoid the continuation of this particular petition. Mary, the price, I think Bob has quoted the price, what more,
Well, that was the appraisal?
the appraisal price was $148,000.
Right, but it says
Other
right
than that,
in-
what else?
if it didn't say, it says in the paperwork that it has to be determined by the tax assessor.
I mean, that, she certainly isn't going to argue
Yeah, I
that, the
just-
appraisal. I just don't want to see everybody have to come back here for the same, we're going to do the same thing.
Well, you don't need us to come back.
Oh, no, you don't.
Do I need to restate my position?
Yeah, you've already stated, that's another highlight point, Mr. Chairman. Our Public Works Department has already stated their position, and I think that's pretty important to make up our minds as a committee. Our recommendation to the council as a whole should be that we've gone through this thing, everybody's putting their input on it. The call of the meeting was for purchase. We're talking about leasing, which is not on the petition. I would say outrightly to recommend to the council that at the moment, at the present time, we deny the petition to purchase this piece of property. That's my thoughts on it. But to come back and go through the same thing all over again, it doesn't seem to make sense to me. I don't know.
Well, I appreciate your opinion, Mr. Esposito, but I have some concerns that I need to get some more additional information. So motion has been on the floor, it's been seconded. As for the committee purposes, all those in favor of continuing this committee with additional information, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
No.
And opposed, Mr. Esposito. I see no further business before this committee.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Second by Mr. Esposito. All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.